Didn't want to interrupt. Good to go? Good afternoon and welcome to this council meeting for the municipality of Dutton Dunwich. It is December 13, 2023. It is 5 p.m. Clerk Tara, if you would, call the meeting to order, please.
Moved by Loveland, seconded by Pemberton, that the meeting of the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich opens at 5 p.m. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you. And I'll just note that our CAO treasurer is joining us online. How are you feeling, Tracy? Okay.
Thumbs down.
Jackie is also joining us online. Okay. Number 2, any declaration of pecuniary interest? I see none. Item number 3 is the adoption of the draft minutes. They were presented to council with your agenda package. Is there any errors or changes or omissions? I see nothing. They will be adopted as presented to council. Clerk Tara, are there any items not listed on the agenda?
There are none.
Thank you. At this time, and it's going to be hard to hand out a certificate to somebody virtual, but we have years of recognition for some employees. And the first one is our CBO, Jackie.
Thank you.
Next time you're in the office, I'll present it to you in person.
Okay,
Thank you for your service, Jackie. We also have Ryan McLeod. He's unable to attend. I will present his at the garage first chance I get. So Ryan is 15 years of service. So thank you, Ryan. And we do have one person in attendance, and that is our clerk, Tara Kretschmer, for 10 years of service. So if somebody would have a camera, we're going to present this. I enjoy this part of my job, and we're going to do it.
Good job.
Thank you, Tara.
Thanks, Sarah. You're welcome.
Okay. That's the enjoyable part of my job. Item 6 on the agenda is the building fees public meeting. Clerk Tara, we need a resolution to get into a public meeting.
Moved by Pemberton, seconded by Drillard, that the public meeting for the 2024 to 2026 building fees opens at 5:02 p.m. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you. And I'll just hand it over to Jackie. Is that the way we're going to do this?
Yes, sounds good. Thank you, Mayor and members of council. I'm just going to run through a slideshow. I don't know if Tara has that queued up for anybody else attending virtually. I'm going to start with a background information. The building department is mandated to operate under a cost recovery basis. Section 7 of the Ontario Building Code Act gives municipalities the authority to set fees for building permits. The section also states that the total amount of fees authorized under Clause 1C must not exceed the anticipated reasonable cost of the principal authority to administer and enforce this act in its area of jurisdiction. However, fees not covered through the permit fees, or the operating, I should say, would then affect the tax levy. So if there's a deficit, it's possible that the tax base would have to make up the difference. If there's a surplus, all the costs are recovered, and the municipality must keep excess in the building department reserve fund, and this fund can be called upon to offset years where there is a deficit. So we're just going to go through a few of the fees here. I have all of them listed that are represented in our fees bylaw, as well as the building bylaw fee schedule. The proposed fees for new residential construction are set to increase 5 cents per square foot for each type of floor area that's covered, as you can see in the chart. The minimum fee for residential additions and renovations will change by $15 for the minimum fee, but the fee for the cost of construction is not being proposed to be changed. As well, the accessory buildings, garages, decks, and porches are all set to increase by approximately 5%. Agricultural fees, there's no proposed changes to the livestock buildings or manure storage pits as far as fees go. However, the non-livestock buildings such as drive sheds and storage buildings are set to increase approximately 5% across the board each year. If we move on to industrial and commercial, again, proposing to increase the fees by just under 5% for each year. And I've also included a cap on fees for any large scale construction where the value of construction is over 10 million. Once you get over that $10 million mark, we'll change the fee to $1.50 per $1,000 of construction value. Pools, other types of fees are set to increase by approximately 5% or just under 5%, $5 per flat fee per year, just nominal increase basically. And we are in keeping with some neighboring municipalities as far as fees go, which we'll see in later slides. Sewage systems increase in fees by $25 per system per year. The flat fees again are increasing by approximately $5 or $10 per fee, depending on which fee it is. Again, just a nominal increase. And then we're going to get into the comparison fees. So we used the Township of Malahide and the Municipality of West Elgin, both similarly sized municipalities in Elgin County. You can see the differences, and I've only included the 2023 fees for Malahide and West Elgin as that's all that's available to me to review. We are still either a little bit less or comparable to both municipalities in all categories. Similarly, in industrial, commercial, and farm buildings, I have some fees to go over, some projects, I guess, comparisons, just so you can see what that looks like for some typical buildings in the future slides. The next one, wood stoves, demolition permits. Again, the fees are very comparable to neighboring municipalities, range within $5 to $20. You'll notice the designated structures, that includes retaining walls, signs, if it's not already listed elsewhere, for instance, and then industrial wind turbines. It was a set fee that was already in place in the fee schedule when I arrived in Dutton, so I have seen no reason to eliminate it, so I've just maintained it in the fee schedule. And then again, the list of fees here, again, just increasing nominally $5 per, except the reinspection fee, just to ensure that people call for their inspections and are ready when I get there, instead of not giving me advance notice before I get there that they're not ready. Just a bit of a deterrent to make sure people are ready when they call for their inspections. And the remainder, again, just either remains the same or just a slight bit increase. So the next slide, it shows over the past 7 years what our fees collected and number of permits issued, so you can see whether or not our revenue and our expenses have been covered. You'll notice some years where we have significant losses and other years where there's significant overages, I guess you could say. Preferably the overages go into the reserve fund, as mentioned in 2021 and 2022, which will cover the losses or the shortfall for a slower year, such as 2023. Right now, we're at 106 permits issued year to date. I created this fee comparison back in October prior to the council report that went beginning of November. But we're still sitting in a net loss for the year at the moment. The next slide is single detached dwelling. So I took a look at the cost of your standard, or what the average permit fee was for a new single detached dwelling. Typically you issue around 18 or 19 of those in a single year. This year has been a lower than average year, and then 2022 and 2021 were more than the average. So you can see what the difference is, and that's why those fees were increased by closer to 9% as opposed to 5%, just because they make us give us a significant impact on the total fees collected for that type of permit. And then also the fees for we don't get a lot of commercial work. It's typically, our area is typical for more residential and agricultural work. So any fees collected for larger commercial work will hopefully inject some money into the reserves while maintaining the status quo for a typical year. But we want to just have cost recovery. So a single detached dwelling that's approximately 2,000 square feet with a 2-car garage and a covered porch. Cost of construction has been coming in between 600 and 800,000 according to the permits that were submitted. You can see what the difference in fees will be over the next 3 years compared to this year for that type of, or that size of single detached dwelling, and then also the comparison between West Elgin and Malahide as far as where we stand in relation to those two municipalities. And again, agricultural, another common type of structure to be issuing permits for. I have 2 different size sheds that we see commonly, or just to give an example. Again, we're in the neighborhood for the most part. Malahide's a little bit more than both West Elgin and Dutton, but I guess that's the way it is in Malahide. So a 60 by 160 storage shed. We have had some larger scale construction this year as well. Again, the fees aren't increasing a great deal, but just to edge it up a bit more so we get closer to that cost recovery as a whole for the building department. And so I just want to also say thank you to council and the departments that helped me put this together. I'm open for any questions that anyone has.
Thank you, Jackie, for that report. I'll go to council first. Are there any questions for Jackie from council? I see none. It is a public meeting. Any questions from the public? Go ahead, Nora.
The fees for the wind turbine, you had, first of all, there was one for a turbine was for $500 of under 3 megawatts or something like that. And there was an additional fee for an industrial one of $15,000. So the $500 one, is that for somebody wanting to stick it? Oh, I'm supposed to go off it.
Damn you.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Sorry, I think if I understood you correctly,
Right.
yes. So there's if it's a designated structure as defined by the Ontario Building Code, the standard fee is $500. However, if it is over the 3 kilowatt then that's where it's an industrial, considered an industrial wind turbine, and that fee would then be $15,000 for that type of wind turbine.
So
Is that-
so a $500 fee, is that one that people would put on their roof? Or is that one in their backyard or, you know, just for their own personal thing? Like I am having trouble figuring out the size between the two extremes.
Okay, so I'm just going to grab my code book because I'm going to read it right out of the designated structure section.
Well, I do like the fact that you compared with other townships. Like I think this whole procedure was done really above board and really interesting for some of us. So you've done a good job on that. Well, I
Thanks.
guess everybody feedback.
So a wind turbine it's a structure that supports a wind turbine generator having a rated output of more than 3 kilowatts. So if it has more than 3 kilowatts, it's considered a designated structure. It would not be considered a designated structure if it is less than 3 kilowatts. So that
So
would,
does that
it
mean
would,
you don't have to pay at all if it's less than, like I still don't understand the size of this thing that's only $500 versus the other ones.
so designated structures are not just for wind turbines. The list here, there's under the designated structure section in the code, there's a retaining wall exceeding 1 meter with some other provisions, a pedestrian bridge appurtenant to a building, a crane runway, an exterior storage tank that's supporting a structure that is not regulated by the TSSA. So that would be your grain bins. However, under grain bins, I calculate that as a non-livestock farm building and calculate the square foot for those as opposed to just charging $500 per bin. Signs regulated by 315. However, I do have a separate fee structure for signs specifically in the bylaw there. An outdoor pool that has a water depth greater than 3.5 meters at any point. Typically, that would be a public pool, not a private pool.
Well,
Yeah.
that's great, thank you. I wasn't interested in all that other stuff. That's
Okay.
self-explanatory on your report.
I see Councillor Pemberton maybe can
Oh.
add to the conversation here.
Yeah, so the size of the turbine, like the physical size, isn't what's determined by that for building code nor what it is the output. So the larger the turbine, the larger the output. So a 3 kilowatt turbine would be a fairly small, like you said, a personal, if you wanted to run like a livestock fence or something like that off, that is about what you'd be able to run. You wouldn't be able to run a whole house or anything off of something that small. So that's kind of the difference, is it's a smaller, very
Okay.
small scale wind turbine for that. So it's
So you could conceivably, on your property of 100 acres, fencing, you could have several of these little things, so to speak. There's
Cons-
no restriction on numbers.
conceivably, yeah,
Something that,
unless your zoning bylaw states differently.
Yes, that would be regulated by the zoning bylaw.
which I haven't read totally, so.
Okay.
Anyway, thank you. Those are my only two questions.
Thanks for the question. I don't think we want to stand in the way of somebody looking after their energy needs on their farm or something like that. There's quite a difference between that and an industrial wind turbine.
Yes.
So, any further questions?
Just a comment, just a comment, you wouldn't want to be building an agricultural structure in Malahide. Why the big difference in price?
That's a really good question. Can't answer it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would say Malahide probably has a fairly large agricultural permit base. So building departments, as Jackie said, are all cost recovery bases. So that's probably where 90% of their permits come from. So that's probably why those are that expensive, is because that's where they're trying to recover their costs.
Makes sense, thank you.
I had the same question.
Yeah.
Anything further? Very well done, Jackie. Thank you. I see no further questions for you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay. Can we There's no reason we can't. Okay. With council's permission, I'd like to adjust the agenda. We have two constables sitting here, that their time is valuable, so if you guys are ready, we're ready to listen.
I'm just gonna close the public meeting.
Oh, sorry, yeah. Public meeting,
Moved by Drulard, seconded by Dreyfus, that the public meeting for the 2024 to 2026 building fees closes at 5:20 PM. All in favor? And that's carried.
okay, we have the OPP here, and I have one officer's name, Dave Moffett.
And Constable Brett Fair.
Fair. Thank you, and they're going to speak to us about off-road vehicles.
Can I stand? Would you mind?
Oh, yeah.
That's a.
You're in Dutton here, Brett?
Yeah, I'm based out of Ogden, that's correct. Yeah, I'm the CSO and media officer.
Okay,
And, so I do the presentations that we don't have experts on board, so.
Okay. Well, thank you for attending. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, council, for the opportunity. My name is Dave Moffett. I am I'm a sergeant with the provincial police, and I work out of headquarters in Aurelia. And I look after the off-road vehicle program for the province and also the marine program for the province. I understand that I was invited here by Brett and yourself because of a very awful occurrence that's happened in your neighborhood. And please accept my condolences for Landon's family and as well as to council for, it's a small town, it affects all of us. So what I'd like to do is explain to you, there's two avenues I'm going here. Is I'm going to talk about the laws of off-road vehicles in provincially. And then I'm going to talk about what I mostly do is I read every occurrence that we have when it comes to off-road vehicle fatalities and try to learn from them and try to, obviously my goal is to have absolutely none, right? And we are trying our best with people like Brett here who really tries to push the messages and get people down here that can do these presentations. It's great. So thank you for the invite. And again, where's your snow? So I'll keep mentioning that. So a couple things. When we're talking about off-roading, off-road vehicles, you can see this graph here. This is the market revenue for off-road vehicles, and it's in Canada. It's in US dollars, but it is in Canada. And you can see it's projected throughout the years. It's going from 2022 to 2030. And you can see that there is major projections coming through. So it's a sport that's not going to decrease in popularity, okay? And we need to keep pushing our messaging and try to get the messaging out to people to make better decisions and to try to bring this fatality rate down. So you can see the more ATVs and side-by-sides are on our roadways and trails. We have had new amendments to the Highway Traffic Act that allows certain certain vehicles on our roadways to be classed as off-road vehicles. But because there's more and more, and the pandemic has increased this massively, there's more and more ATVs on the roadway. So safety is our priority, of course, and we have to keep pushing the message. So the common complaints right now, trespassing is the big one. We have these property owners that are good enough to allow these trails to come through their property, especially in the snowmobile world. And we have people that are abusing it by running their property illegally. Noise, mufflers, careless operation, and then of course speeding. And then we can see the sales are just keep rising and very prevalent. So in the off-road vehicle world, there are two acts we follow, and I'm going to talk about the first one, which is called the Off-Road Vehicles Act. And it talks about a location of where your off-road vehicle is being operated. And it depends on what side you look at. So the first thing is the Off-Road Vehicles Act, and it talks about basically these four areas that we talk about: trails, crown land, crossing highways. It's not running on highways, but crossing highways, and private property. And I can see beside crossing highways, says G2, you have to have a driver's license just to cross a highway. Okay, we can't have a 12-year-old operating an off-road vehicle come into a highway and cross the highway. We have to, someone with a license actually has to cross that. The second one is the Highway Traffic Act, and it's called OREG 31603. And this is the part of the regulation we follow that allows off-road vehicles to be on highways. Okay, so if you're running in a highway, and we'll talk about the definition of a highway, but if you're running on an area that is designed for traffic, then you'll be running on 31603. So we look at all highways, and definition of a highway, when we look at a highway, it talks about all roadways. Okay, we'll talk about that in a little bit, except for private roads. And the big difference between private roads, it doesn't mean that you have a sign that says, you know, Smith Street, PRIV. That's not a private road. A private road means it's gated, that there's no public access, that you know, no one can actually stumble onto it. Doesn't, you know, you're not going to have fire services come through it, etc. Okay, so that is a private road. Private road that just denotes it on top. It just means that it's not being it's not being the authority is not through the municipality to look after it. Okay, so when we look at the definition of a highway, and this is what it says in the Highway Traffic Act, and you can see there is a ton of parts of what a highway is. And it includes a common and public highway, street, avenue, parkway, driveway, square, place, bridge, viaduct, or trestle, any part of which is intended for and used by the general public for the passage of vehicles, and includes the area between the lateral property lines thereof. So this is the big piece that we are trying to get out, that it's not just the road, it's not just the shoulder, it includes all of the roadway, which is fence line to fence line, ditch to ditch, property line to property line. It includes the median. So when we see off-road vehicles running these areas that are parallel with the highway, it's still considered the highway. So it's still being regulated under the Highway Traffic Act. Okay. So what's allowed? Now this is where, and honestly, it's confusing for the public and it's confusing for us. So we are trying to get the message out, and we'll talk at the end about what we are trying to do as the provincial police force with the Ontario government. So off-road vehicle, this is the definition of what an off-road vehicle is under the Off-Road Vehicles Act. It talks about a vehicle propelled or driven otherwise but then by muscular power and wind designed to travel on 3 wheels or more than 3 wheels and is a prescribed class of vehicle. Okay, it's very lawyer jargon. Talks about the prescribed class, and you can see in there as you read it, dune buggies, ATVs, and vehicles designed for utility applications that have 4 or more wheels. Okay, big piece. Under the Highway Traffic Act, what's the definition? They list 5 different types of vehicles that can run the highway. Okay, and we're going to talk about what those types of vehicles are. An all-terrain vehicle, or an ATV, as we all know, multi-purpose off-highway vehicle, utility vehicle, recreational off-highway vehicle, and we commonly refer to them as side-by-sides, off-road motorcycles, and extreme terrain vehicles. Okay, and we're going to talk about all those 5 right there. So if we see these 2 here, one is a single person ATV, one is a 2-up ATV. You can see it's designed for 2 people on that bike. Designed is the important piece. So under the off-road vehicle, where does that fit? Vehicles designed for use on all terrain, exactly. Steering, handlebars, and straddled by the driver. So that includes those 2 items in the Off-Road Vehicle Act. In the Highway Traffic Act, which is part of that definition, that also includes those 2. Okay. So if you look on if passenger designed to be straddled sitting forward, no aftermarkets allowed. So there are companies out there, and you can buy them, that you can actually buy a kit that will strap onto the back of a single person ATV, illegal. Okay, it has to be designed for 2 people, to operate it. And the footrest is a big piece too. Footrests actually have to be used, and they have to have the person that can reach them. So you can't have a young child on it that can't reach footrest. This is called a recreational off-highway vehicle or a side-by-side. And again, the Off-Road Vehicles Act, it's kind of the same definition. It does include that. And why I'm doing that, remember where these vehicles are allowed, right? Off-road vehicles are allowed in trails, you know, in private property, et cetera, et cetera. And the HDA mostly running on the roadways. Okay, so they are allowed. And under the HDA, it talks about steering wheel, seats are not designed to be straddled because they sit in those vehicles. And this thing, you cannot have an engine displacement that is more than 1,000 cc. Okay, so and where that is important is those big shirts. Those shirts have an engine displacement way more than 1,000 cc, so they're not allowed on the road. Okay, I don't know if you have that issue down here. Have you ever seen them? Yeah. Yeah, they're starting to be prevalent. The Sherps, they're big square, they have tires like this, and the tires are actually flotation, so they can run across lakes and frozen lakes and kind of don't go into the water, come up onto the ice. It's, yeah. Anyway, they're actually trying to get us to buy a couple, and no, I've had lots of people call, no, we're not interested. This one is the same thing as a side-by-side, but it's mostly used for utility. You can see there's an area in the back that has a dump box or a box where you can put property. And the only difference here is that now you have a minimum cargo capacity of 159 kilograms, a minimum. Okay. So, and why these definitions are important is that people do start, you know, there's a lot of fabricators out there, and we have to make sure that they fit within these definitions so that these acts fall. Yes.
A quick question. Those are equipped with seat belts.
Yes.
It is still a requirement to wear a helmet. Is that correct?
100%. And we're going to get to that.
Okay, sorry. Very
No
technical.
problem. No, great question though. Yes. Yes. Off-road motorcycles are now allowed on the highway. That is a new amendment that came in, oh gosh, a couple of years ago. We were very much involved with MTO, but it was, I think this was more, we had some real concerns with what was being passed, and it was more of an industry thing. So obviously these motorcycles are the ones that come right out of the shop. And again, ORVA, it's the same definition. And in this case, under the HTA, steering handlebars, we have two wheels in contact with the ground, a certain rim diameter, a certain wheelbase, seats straddled by the driver, and absolutely no passengers whatsoever on off-road motorcycles or sidecars. Never seen an off-road motorcycle with a sidecar, so. And then this is another one. This is, yes, yes, sir.
Back ones,
Sure.
like motorcycles, many of them have no lights.
Yes.
They have turn signal, no nothing. It's still allowed.
Yes. And that was, that's one of the things we're talking right now with, and that was one of the concerns we had. So the industry wasn't, this is my understanding, is the industry wasn't too fond of putting a regulation of having headlights and stop lamps. And they got passed. So anyway, that is something that we are bringing up and we are talking to MTO about right now. So, extreme terrain vehicles, these are, they're allowed on the roadway and they don't go that fast, which is great, but they're also not designed to be on the roadway. They're very, the wheels, not a lot of PSI in the wheels. They, you know, they work like a tank, but they're still allowed on the highway. So Off-Road Vehicles Act, same definition that it falls under, and then this under 31603, 6 to 8 wheels, no tracks, seats not designed to be straddled, and it also has that minimum cargo capacity. Okay, so those are the definitions of those 5 separate items that are allowed on the highways. And yeah, like really important to that definition of a highway, right? It involves that whole piece. So general laws for off-road vehicles. When we're looking at trails, so this is basically under the Off-Road Vehicles Act, they have to be green plated. Okay, so they have to be registered with the ministry. They have to have insurance. Under the Off-Road Vehicles Act, there's not really an age, except that if the person is under 12, they have to be supervised by an adult. And an adult can be a 16-year-old person. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about that later. But if they're over 12, they don't have to be supervised. So valid driver's license to drive across the highway, helmet, and when we're very, very strict about this with the OPP is that when the helmets are on, they have to be fastened up and the chin strap's done up. If the chin strap's not done up, they get a helmet charge right off the bat. We've had many bad collision when a helmet actually just by the inertia of the person coming off the bike, the helmet leaves the head because it's not strapped. Paperwork and passengers are allowed on the bike and also on the towed. If you have a trailer, passengers are actually allowed to be in the trailer. But everybody that's being towed or everyone that's on the bike has to have a helmet on and has to have it strapped up. And the side-by-sides, it's the seatbelts. If it comes with seatbelts, which the extreme terrain vehicles do and all the side-by-sides do, then they have to have that done up properly. Now under the Highway Traffic Act, again, green plated and insured. You must have a G2 license or greater, which also includes an M2 license, which is the motorcycle license. Driving on the shoulder, there's basically the law is you drive on the shoulder, but if there's no shoulder, then you have to drive as close to the side as you can. So you're not driving in a live lane of traffic, it's to the side. And has to be in the same direction of traffic, obviously. Okay. Passengers, only if it's designed for 2 people. And we can't have, and the footrests have to reach the person. And no passengers under 8 years old at all. Okay. And then the seatbelt thing. Okay, so this is where it gets a little confusing. Inside of the Highway Traffic Act, OReg 31603, there's 2 schedules. Schedule A is prohibited places to drive the 400 series highways. So Highway 11, we have a spot where in Aurelia, like it's 2-lane, it's not controlled access, but then it becomes controlled access and then goes back to not being controlled access. That controlled access part is prohibited to have any off-road vehicles on. So it's all listed under that. Schedule B is where you are allowed to operate on a highway. Okay, so for instance, most provincial highways allow off-road vehicles, and it will be all listed in Schedule B. Provincial highways, not municipal roads, but provincial highways. Okay, so you can find all that in the Highway Traffic Act. So a very good example where I'm from in Bracebridge is you come off the highway, you turn right, it's Highway 118, you turn left, it's Muskoka Road 118. And the ATVs can do all they want over here, but as soon as they come over here, they're prohibited. Okay. So the next piece, this is where it gets really confusing, is this is the question we have. Well, we do a lot of shows and so many people come up to us and say, hey, I'm from so-and-so, can you operate your ATV there? I'm like, your guess is as good as mine. My suggestion is to do your homework. Every place you go, you must do your homework. Okay, unless of course you're on a like a ATV club that knows the area and they have control of the trails. So the 3 steps. And the first thing is check with the municipality of the bylaw, of course. Okay, and if the municipality has a bylaw, then you follow the bylaw. And the bylaw may prohibit or allow that the use of ATVs. As I don't think I'm telling stuff you don't know, right? Okay. So the second one there, if there's no bylaw in place and the municipality is found in Ontario Reg 803, which Dutton is, right, then ATVs are allowed in this area. So a bylaw has to be in place to not allow them to be on the roadways. And that's the confusing piece that people have, the public. And then if there's absolutely no bylaw in place, it's not listed under 803, then you're prohibited, absolutely. Okay, and I don't think I'm telling anything that you don't know. Speed limits for off-road vehicles on the highways. It's really simple. It's about around the 50-kilometer mark. That if the speed limit is 50 or less, then it's a 20 kilometer an hour speed limit. And if it's over 50, then it's a 50 kilometer an hour speed limit. This is broken all the time. And, you know, I have to say also that they're loud, like ATVs are loud, where the complaints get generated because of the noise they're making. And there's no regulation regarding noise when it comes to off-road vehicles. So we try to do our best to inform the public and say, well, how fast do you think they're going? And when you have a 50 kilometer an hour speed limit and they're certainly not going 20, then definitely we can go and have a chat with the person, or you know, do our thing with enforcement, let the CSOs know and all the officers, etc. So now we talk about our stats, and there's 7 things I want to talk about. The impairment, the helmet, rollovers, private property versus trails, age and power, supervision, and some legislation pieces. Okay. This is provincially. This is not in West Region. This is the big picture. Okay. We take a lot of information from the big picture, very stats generated, very stats oriented, so that we can let people know provincially what, you know, our officers especially, is what we need to do to drop these numbers. So this is our fatality rate. So we have had pretty consistent numbers since 2016, which is horrendous. 24 fatalities this year. Okay, and that's to date. So the year's not over, but that's to date. If we look, and that's our fatality rate. So 175 since 2016, and that's our non-fatality injuries. Which sometimes I've been a collision investigator for most of my career, and the difference between a fatality and an injury is milliseconds, right? It's missing that tree by a half an inch, you know, etc. So the numbers can very much rise, or the numbers can very much drop. So, but you can see there's a rise. Now, I look at this and I look at how the number of off-road vehicles are being purchased and the number of vehicles that are being registered. And I look at our fatality rate that is pretty flat. And I look at that and go, that's a win so far. Because there's way more ATVs than there were in 2016. So we are doing good things. We're not doing great things. We're trying to do great things, but I think we have to, you know, I'll be happy once I see those numbers drop when the sales are starting to rise. So fatalities in off-road collisions by driver action. So in our electronic collision reporting system, we have all these different actions that we write down after we investigate the collision. And so this is an important piece because, you know, the first 5 there are talking about exceeding speed limits, improper turns, improper passing, disobey traffic signal. Okay, that's a very small percentage, under 2%. And then we go up to about the other, which I can't even give you an example of that, but it's something that the investigator thought none of this applies. And then we have speed too fast for conditions and driving properly, and we're getting up there about 15 to 12%. But this is the huge one. This is about responsibility. This is about driving. This is about lost control, losing control of an ATV. We're getting the message out that these things have high center of gravity, that they don't have a lot of PSI in the wheels. So when you're turning at a high rate of speed, that front wheels rolls underneath the bike, and then it catches and it rolls. So we're trying to get that message out and getting people to understand that I know you might have, you know, years and years of experience, but the people that have that experience are also dying. So we're trying to get the message out as best we can. Condition driver impaired. A lot of people think off-road vehicles are directly related to impairment, and you can see they're not here. There's only 13% of our fatalities are impaired by alcohol. The 20% is about had been drinking. We can't call it impaired, but we can say, you know, he was at the campfire and had a beer, right? Had been drinking part of it, but 44%, just over 44 is normal, nothing. Okay, and which, you know, could be out on a trail, could be someone that, you know, was going for a fall bike ride and lost control of the bike. So, and then they have the other category. This always surprises me. So helmet enforcement. One thing about a helmet, so it says that if you're on an off-road, if you're on a trail, if you're on under the Off-Road Vehicles Act and the Highway Traffic Act, the laws are the same. You must have a helmet on. But if you're on private property and the bike is registered to the same person that is the occupier of the land, you don't have to have a helmet on. And you don't have to have insurance. And it doesn't have to be plated. So it amazes me how many people want to take that risk and not wear their helmet when they're doing farm activities or going out and clearing brush. And you'll see later of where these collisions are happening. It's pretty phenomenal. But this is amazing that where the section says that you have to have it securely done up, and then we have the exception about where you don't have to wear it. And then, you know, the Highway Traffic Act refers to the Off-Road Vehicle Act, so it's the same exact law between the two. But where it wasn't worn, where it was worn, half and half. Half of the people weren't wearing helmets of our fatalities, which is awful. And a lot of those are about private property, where someone's out doing chores and they don't come home, and someone goes and looks for them and finds the bike on top of them without person not wearing a helmet. So we're trying to get that message out. You know, wear your helmet no matter where you are. Wear it. So rollovers. Biggest piece of the puzzle here that why people are dying is because of the crush injuries we're getting from rollovers. And these are 1,000-pound machines. So if, especially with the inertia, if the thing rolls, it's going to roll on top of you, and it's going to crush your, you know, your chest, your head, etc. So 40%, just over 40% of all of the fatalities caused by rollover, which is a phenomenal number. The Canadian stat is 45%. So we're doing a little better. We don't have the mountains that cause these rollovers, but it is a huge number. Ontario and Quebec are the two provinces that have the highest registered ATVs or off-road vehicles in the country. And then the non-fatal injuries, 41%. So still that, you know, 41, 42% is the rollovers. So what we are trying to promote is about a crush protection device. And I'll show you what it is. So this here on the back is called a crush protection device. And it's a post that goes from the trailer hitch, and it goes up and gets secured onto the back part of the rack of the bike. And so if you don't have this, when you roll over and the person's on the bike, then the rollover plane is here. But now you have this crush protection device, so the rollover plane is here, and you have all that space that an occupant can get away. And we are really trying to promote this product. We take it to all the shows. It's the only downfall is it's not a traditional look of an ATV, and people don't like them because. Sorry, you know what? I'm not going to say they don't like them because the number of comments we get about it is phenomenal. People are like, "That's a great idea," and everybody has a rollover story that use an ATV a lot. So we are with the OPP. We have 6 bought right now. We're trying to buy a handful more, and we're just trying to get them out to the community so the community can see there are options out there. We're not going to test them. Hopefully we don't test them, but I've read every paper out there about crush protection devices, and they make sense. So we are, as the OPP, really trying to push the crush protection device piece at every show we go to, and also on the trails. Like I said, we have 6 right now, and they're all being used on the trails. Okay, so the location, that's what I want to talk about. So from 2016 to 2023, you can see this graph here, and the yellow is highways, and the orange is private property. Okay, and then the The frozen lake or river is pretty non-consistent. It's like we get like 1 or 2 a year maybe. But it's pretty consistent when it goes to working. Oh, sorry. Oh, what am I doing? I pushed the wrong one. How's that? There we go. I got the laser going. So percentage wise, 41% of our fatalities are on highways. And when we take that with the loss control and the rollover piece, it just screams to me that people are driving too fast. They're not aware of the capabilities of the off-road vehicle, and they're not being responsible. And again, more messaging. Okay, and then the trail where off-road vehicles belong, it's a low percentage. Okay, supervision. This is another one that we would like to talk about. There was an inquest that had concluded a couple of years ago for a fatality we had with a 7-year-old over in East Region. His name was Horatio McLeod, and there were 26 recommendations, and one is about age now because of he was 7 years old, but he was a passenger on a side-by-side that was on the highway. So we're still working through that. These recommendations are still being implemented. But under the Off-Road Vehicle Act, it says no owner of an off-road vehicle shall permit a child under the age of 12 to drive the vehicle. But it doesn't apply if it's on land occupied by the vehicle owner or it's under the close supervision of an adult. So that there is close supervision of an adult. But bad things can happen with that. We know that. We have occurrences where people are, not on land occupied by the vehicle owner, where they're, dad's sitting on the porch at the cottage and can hear the off-road vehicle, which to me that's not supervision, right? So those are the definitions that are the investigations that we do. There's no definition of what supervision means in the Off-Road Vehicle Act, so we have to go to the dictionary. And what does supervision mean? A critical watching and directing. And watching from a porch is not critical watching and directing, as far as I'm concerned. So what's our messaging? Wear a helmet always, everywhere, absolutely everywhere, no matter what. Know your ability. Like the loss of control is the #1 issue. Drive it properly. Highway operation, understand the capabilities of the bike or the off-road vehicle. Age versus horsepower. Too often we see a child on a bike that's way too big for them, but there is no regulation that gets in the way there. So we are trying to educate people about that. Supervision we talked about, and private property, the exemptions, wearing a helmet, yada yada, and the booze thing, of course. Okay, and what are we trying to do as organization here? We are trying to partner with UFATV, which is a very strong partnership that we have. It's the Ontario Federation of ATVs. They have the ear of the provincial government as well. So we have a very tight bond with them, and they are very much aligned with us with our goals and our what we would like to see in the new regs, if there are new regs. We want to work with the ministry to change these regs. I think having 2 regulations is confusing. So why not, as under the Motorized Snow Vehicle Act, where we have 1 regulation, why can't we kind of do the same thing? So, and the UFATV are talking the same route as us. New rules about speeding. There's no speed laws on trails, so we would like to get that implemented. So there's lots of things we can see that will really, with all the stats that we see, would really kind of make the act a lot safer. A lot of social media we do, and that's it. So yeah, anyway, I hope that gave you a kind of an overview of what we can do as police officers. Our hands are tied with some of the stuff, but we are trying our best to get that messaging out and to make people make better choices. Any questions?
Thank you. Excellent presentation. Before we go any farther, I'd like to recognize Inspector Nemps. And I think you're probably behind this group coming together and presenting to us.
I'd like to actually thank Brett for that. He did
who brought this together for us, but yes, thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And as you know, we went through a tough time this fall. So the message needs to get out there and be heard. And I guess I have one question. You talked about getting somebody in this area that can offer this presentation or trained to do that. Would that be Brett doing that?
Yeah, at this point, we're putting together like a community response unit as well. So it'll be myself at this point, and then with if more of the pieces fall in place, then they'll have a couple other uniform officers that will be able to assist. We also have members that are ATV trained for patrolling in the area, and we did a presentation self-build this fall, and they came up and assisted me with that as well. So we certainly will have more than just myself, a lot of people that can deliver this presentation or something similar.
Okay, thank you for that. And we have a fairly active ATV group here. And as you may know, we do have a bylaw in this municipality where we allow it. Not everywhere, but we do allow it on most of our gravel roads, all of our gravel roads, and with some restrictions on pavement. But having said that, this would be an excellent presentation to make to that group and anyone else that would attend. So we'll stay in touch with the municipality on that, and this winter would be an opportune time to do it, I think. Does council have any questions?
I just had one question coming. I know that the high school does have a community safety day where they invite you. Will you offer this at the local high school or local high schools?
Absolutely. The only challenge we're having as of late with high schools is with there's some resistance from the Thames Valley District School Board to get us in there. That being said, we have had some recent success with the East Elgin. They requested a presentation. They went through the checks and balances, and they're going to let us in there. So I'm hopeful that is the beginning of letting us in, especially when it's for matters that are immediately concerning to the public. So we keep asking every time someone asks me this question. We go through the school. I tell them the process they have to go through, and then it's on occasion the district school board is allowing us in there. So I'm hoping that's going to become more prevalent. We certainly, if they'll let us in, we'll happily attend and deliver any presentation that anybody wants to hear. So
The use is prevalent in a farming community, like for young people. So
100%. And the other thing that we are looking into as well is we're just trying to get the bits and pieces in place. With that being a hurdle that we're trying to get with the schools, we're also just trying to find a venue or an avenue to reach them outside of that, whether that's youth groups or whatever the case is. So we're going to try to get creative. If we can't make that connection there, then we'll just have to find another place. As long as someone's willing to listen and put a roof over our heads so we can get people to gather, then we'll do that for sure.
Just so you know, we are going to discuss that issue regarding school resource officer. It's on the agenda tonight. And I think you know how I feel about it, Inspector Nemps. We did have a discussion about that.
And I would like to formally thank you for your support with respect to that. We are anticipating it's going to come to fruition sooner than later, that we'll be back into the schools because the value is being seen in the larger city centers like St. Thomas. They're seeing a dramatic rise in violent crimes, drug use, and children being afraid to come to school, which is not what they should be having happen at all. So we've band together with them along with Armored Police to sort of put forward a response to Thames Valley, which we've used the letter from the Police Services Board to support that. That's why we need to be back in the schools. So we are actively doing that. So we're preparing our unit, which Brett spoke to, our community response unit. We've got one more person to hire for that, and we will have our unit ready to go as soon as we're allowed in. We'll guns blazing, not to.
That's what got us. Right. Hit the ground running, perhaps.
I can't speak for all of council, but I certainly support that. And we will have that discussion here tonight and see where council decides to go with it. Oh, anyway, anything further?
I just thank you for the opportunity.
Well,
Nice to meet you.
Thank you for driving through a snowstorm from Aurelia to get here. That's above and beyond the call of duty.
I was out walking in just my short sleeves, and people were looking at me going, "Where do you come from?"
Yeah.
Okay, that's where I came from.
Just to touch base with You spoke about impaired operating.
Yes.
So you said alcohol, but it also relates to drugs as well.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Let me make sure that clarifies.
Drugs and alcohol, yes.
And before we finish up, Inspector Nemps, I'd like to introduce my counsel to you. So we'll go around the table here. She has replaced Inspector Lucas about a year ago.
June.
June, okay.
Yes, June.
So
What happened?
go ahead, Counselor Dreyfus.
Henry Dryko, Counselor, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
And was in Deputy Mayor.
Yes.
Pretty powerful, Counselor.
Amaryllis Drew, large Chancellor.
Nice to meet you.
You're welcome to hang around. It's pretty exciting stuff, but it's up to you.
That's okay. We'll let you get back to your meeting and thank you very much for having us.
Be in touch.
Thank you very much, Jess.
You're welcome, anytime.
No, I didn't.
See you later, folks.
See you later.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, I'm a.
Really familiar.
Thank you.
Take care, thanks for having us.
Just got to get logged back in here. Okay. We'll get back on track here. Item 8 is our drainage department, and that is appoint the engineer for the BD drain. Who's handling that? Clerk Tara? Is there any documentation or anything on that?
No, it's just been the 30-day period, so we're just appointing Spreet as the engineer for this. So I have a resolution if that's
Go ahead.
moved by Dreyfus, seconded by Pemberton, that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich appoints Spreet Associates Limited to prepare the necessary report for the Section 78 petition for the BD drain filed by Ryan and Melanie McLeod, and that notice of council's decision to appoint the engineer be sent to the requester, Lower Thames Valley Conservation Authority, OMAFRA, and Spreet Associates Limited. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you. Number 9 is the planning department, and I think we had our planner Tracy online. Go ahead, Councillor Dreyfus.
Tracy was online and she just messaged me saying that she had to leave.
Okay.
So I'll speak to the Heritage Registry. So we're requesting that the committee, the planner is requesting that we remove 29357 Talbot Line, Municipality of Dutton Dunwich from the Heritage Registry. It was listed on the registry as a potential designated property for heritage. The reason we're requesting that it be removed, there has been a permit request for demolition. So the committee by proxy vote voted that it be removed from the Heritage Registry to allow the landowner to take down the home, the old home, and to give them the right to build a building on site. So that's the request of the planner this evening, and so we're seeking council approval to remove the house from the registry.
Everybody know what house we're talking about here? It's the old Pierce house on the outskirts of Wallstown.
Yeah.
Any questions from council? Clerk Tara, resolution, please.
Moved by Pemberton, seconded by Loveland, that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives the report of the planner titled Request to Remove Property from Municipal Heritage Register 29357 Talbot Line, Municipality of Dutton Dunwich, dated December 13th, 2023 for information, and that council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich removes 29357 Talbot Line as a property on the municipal register of heritage property for the purpose of demolition. All in favor? And that's carried.
Here. We'll deal with correspondence. For 10A, Prince Edward County Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks proposal to expand use of permit by rule. That was in your package. Is there any discussion on that correspondence? I don't see any. Larry, you have it.
Moved by Loveland, seconded by Drewler, that the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich supports the resolution from Prince Edward County urging the provincial government to stop the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks proposal to expand the use of the permit by rule to waste management systems, stormwater management systems, and certain water taking activities. And that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to Rob Flack, MPP, Karen Vecchio, MP, and Prince Edward County. All in favor? And that's carried.
Item B is the municipality of Shania, excessive noise engine brakes. Anybody care to comment or discussion on that one? Resolution, please, Clerk Tara.
Moved by Drewlard, seconded by Pemberton, that the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich supports the resolution from the Municipality of Shania requesting that the Province of Ontario enhance enforcement for deficient muffler systems to address concerns around excessive and unnecessary noise from engine brakes, and that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to Rob Flack, MPP, Karen Vecchio, MP, and the Municipality of Shania. All in favor? And that's carried.
Yeah, I did a quick read on the consideration that Aylmer is putting forth, and I guess the primary thing is the Tenancy Act is they're proposing changes to the Tenancy Act and capping rent increases to 2.6% per year, and it's all designed for affordability. And so I guess I'm just going to make a comment that I'll support the move of what Aylmer's doing here, but with hesitation, because I think there's a lot of other factors that aid in housing not being affordable, and just to limit the opportunity for landlords to recover costs because they have a lot of investment. I'm actually struggling with the motion in general, but I understand the principle, and I think in a later motion that's put forth by the municipality of Chatham-Kent, they present some good arguments there. So I'll speak to that when that time comes. But so
Anything further from council? Just a comment. I read through it as well, and we need more of these units. And anything, I understand affordability, but get developers looking at that, and how keen are they to build some new units as well? So there's two sides to this one, so I understand that. But anyway, no further discussion, we'll call the question.
Moved by Pemberton, seconded by Dreyfus, that the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich supports the resolution from the town of Aylmer requesting provincial consideration for amendments to the Residential Tenancies Act 2006 to ensure that all tenants benefit from protections intended to preserve affordability, and that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to Rob Flack, MPP, Karen Vecchio, MP, and the town of Aylmer. All in favor? And that's carried.
To read that, is there any comments on that one? Anybody? No. I'm a little hesitant on this one, and just for one reason. I'm not sure that conservation officers have the same training as our OPP. And to me, it just seems like just going a little too far. That's my opinion on it. No one wants to comment, we'll call the question. Councillor Drulard, did you want to?
No, but I mean, I can understand some hesitancy on that side, but they are asked to go into situations that are somebody is armed, and they are asked to do enforcement, but they're not compensated like enforcement officers. So I can understand hesitancy on one side, but I also think that what they're being asked to do in the line of their job, I feel like they should be compensated fairly for it.
Anything further from council? We'll call the question, please, for Tara.
Moved by Dreyfus, seconded by Drulard, that the municipality of Dutton Dunwich supports the resolution from the Township of Coleman supporting the Ontario Conservation Officers Association in their efforts to have conservation officers in the province of Ontario reclassified as enforcement officers and be compensated fairly, and that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to Rob Flack, MPP, Karen Vecchio, MP, and the Township of Coleman. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you. Is the municipality of Tweed, federal and provincial funding grant programs. Anyone care to comment on that one? No. We all need more money, so Clerk Tara, question please.
Moved by Drulard, seconded by Loveland, that the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich supports the resolution from the Municipality of Tweed lobbying the federal and provincial government to assist municipalities with limited access to funding except through municipal taxes to reestablish partnerships and 1/3 funding agreements as a funding stream, and that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to Rob Flack, MPP, Karen Vecchio, MP, and the Municipality of Tweed. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you. Item F is the Elgin Group Police Services Board letter regarding School Resources Officer SRO program in schools. There was started a discussion on that. Is any other comments from council on that one? Dr. Dreyfus.
I didn't even know this was an area that had been dropped, and I'm taken back tonight, to be honest with you, because this has to move forward. I'm just shocked, actually, to be honest with you. So I'm supporting for sure.
Councillor Drulard.
Just because it specifically mentions my employer, I will need to declare a conflict. So I cannot vote on this.
Okay. I know Inspector Nemps, I've met with her and discussed this previously. She's passionate about this. They want to get back into school. They can do good things. So I fully support this as well. And I don't know whether it's true or not, but my understanding is that Thames Valley District School Board is the only one in Ontario still standing in the way of this. So that's a little disturbing to me. So anyway, we'll call the question.
Moved by Loveland, seconded by Pemberton. Whereas the Thames Valley District School Board paused the School Resource Officer Program in fall 2021, and whereas the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich shares the concern of the Elgin Group Police Services Board regarding the ongoing pause of the SRO program as it is designed to not only educate students about important topics such as alcohol and drugs, but also to build positive relationships with our youth. Now, therefore, the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich urges the Thames Valley District School Board to consider resuming the SRO program in schools and further that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to Lori Ann Pizzolato, Chair of the Thames Valley District School Board, Rob Flack, MPP, and the Elgin Group Police Services Board. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you. Any discussion on that item from council?
Well, just
Councillor Graham.
further to my comments from the town of Aylmer, the risk, the greatest impact on social housing is lack of funding in general. It's the people, the Ontario Works Assistance Program is underfunded, and a lot of the people are underpaid to support average rents in Ontario of $1,100 per month, and their income is 700 something. So I think Chatham Kent has hit the nail on the head when it comes to the issue. And the other thing that, and we're dealing with the exact same thing in our municipality. We have opportunity for investment in several of our buildings for rent, affordable rent or decent rent payments within that $1,100 category. And the cost to get to that finished product is so expensive that they have no choice but to increase rents from like $500-600 to $1,100 a month. That's just a reality of the day. So, in reading the document from Chatham Kent, they have identified that you will limit community investment if we do not somehow figure out a way to put money in the pockets of these people that need help. And we've all identified that there are people that have mental health, and that's just the way it is. We need to support them somehow or another. So that's the only thing I will say. And I think this is a fantastic motion. So.
Any further comments? Okay. Clerk Tara, please.
Moved by Pemberton, seconded by Dreyfus, that the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich supports the resolution from the Municipality of Chatham Kent recommending that accommodation rates of social assistance payments increase to the average market rent for all types of rentals for recipients of Ontario Works Assistance and the Ontario Disability Support Program, and that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to Rob Flack, MPP, Karen Vecchio, MP, and the Municipality of Chatham Kent. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you. The last one is the town of Plimpton, Wyoming, support to revoke strong mayor powers and increase in the leave to construct threshold. Council have any comments on that one? We're too small to have a strong mayor, so, but it's the news of the day. So Clerk Tara, please, resolution.
Moved by Dreyfus, seconded by Drouillard, that the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich supports the resolution from the Western Ontario Wardens Caucus calling on the provincial government to work with municipalities in Ontario to focus efforts on tackling the housing and affordability crisis in Ontario by revoking existing strong mayor powers, respecting spheres of jurisdiction by recognizing that municipalities are best positioned to determine the mix of roles and responsibilities between upper and lower tier municipalities, recognizing rural and small urban municipalities are critical to overcoming the housing and affordability crisis in Ontario, and not allocating the majority of scarce provincial housing supportive funding to a limited subset of large urban municipalities, and that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to Rob Flack, MPP, Karen Vecchio, MP, the Western Ontario Wardens Caucus, and the town of Plimpton, Wyoming. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you. And we've covered all of the correspondence.
Yep. Moved by Drulard, seconded by Loveland, that relevant correspondence was reviewed. All in favor? And that's carried.
House counsel for carrying on or break, or what are we thinking? A little bit farther? Okay. The consent agenda, let's break it in three here, just for ease right now. Part A of the consent correspondence, is there anything on there the council would like to discuss? Okay. Already had a chance to review it. And part B is the committee reports. Everybody's good with them as well? And C is the monthly, are you going to do them separately?
No.
No. The monthly staff reports. Any questions or comments or on any of our staff reports? Or Deputy Mayor Loveland.
Just a couple of minor things, I think, on the manager of roads and facilities monthly activity report. I guess I'm still a little concerned that we're using our parking lot behind the doctor's office to continue to store recycled asphalt. When you got things like the parade and we need all that parking, I don't really think that needs to be there. I think it should be out of there before it freezes.
Note of that, Clerk Tara.
That's about all I had.
Okay. Anyone else on any of our staff reports? Yeah, Councilor Dreyfus.
This, for CAO, Tracy, in your report there, and I'm just a question, because it came up today with somebody I was talking to, was the Elgin Hospice meeting. I've heard a couple of things out of the hospice and some of the things that they're going through. So, Tracy, could you just give us an update on where we are with the hospice?
We have nothing to do with that hospice.
If I could, I'll add to
had-
that as well.
yeah. We had a
There-
meeting with them, but they weren't asking us for any money. More
There
for us
was a
to.
request from Laura Sherwood, I think made directly to me. And we tried to find a date, and finally we did. On that date, we just met in here. It was easy. And I asked Tracy to sit in as well. It was an information session, where they're at. And I was expecting a request, funding request, none came. It was just and well, there was one ask, how we could get the word out through our social media or other ways to keep the public informed where they're at. So I know that's something that staff is looking at. Can we assist in any way promoting this or telling people about it? That was really the only ask.
May I ask one more?
Yeah.
Is the county supporting the hospice initiative, or?
The county has been asked, among many asks, and I can't offer more than that, other than we're in budget talks right now, so. Anything further on staff reports? Okay. Do we have a resolution for that, Tara?
Moved by Loveland, seconded by Pemberton, that the items on the consent agenda be approved. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay. If everyone's still good to go. Item 12 is the clerk's report, and that is the Waste Connections extension. Clerk Tara, I'll hand it over to you.
So this is just an extension to the current agreement. We were looking at the producer responsibility. We have an option for 2 single-year extensions. Our producer responsibility isn't going to kick in until 2025, so this will just kind of tie us over for 2024. Does anybody have any questions?
I'm gonna just make a comment on our garbage collection. Southold has gone to a bi-weekly garbage pickup. And we're in budget talks, just something to think about. I'm just floating it out there. Their savings is $100,000 by doing that. They're also going with St. Thomas for a garbage pickup down there. So I think there's things that need to get discussed in here during budget talks on, it's a big ticket item on our garbage collection.
Yeah, and I think Southwold went to bi-weekly in the rural areas, but their urban areas is still weekly, is what they've done, yeah.
But I think the number is still, Brant Jones told me that there's $100,000 there. So I'd like council just think of things like that. CAO Tracy, do you have a comment on that one?
Southold also went with a different supplier because they got out of the recycle. We're still in it, so they went there with GF. Tara, help me out.
Yeah.
GFL.
GFL. So they have a different contractor for that portion.
I'd encourage council to just float that one around the community and see if you get your head bit off or if it's, I think we need to look at every single item on this budget. And that's a big ticket item, so I'll leave it at that. Okay, any other discussion on the clerk's report? Clerk Tara, resolution, please.
Moved by Pemberton, seconded by Drulard, that the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives the report of the clerk titled Curbside Collection Agreement Extension dated December 13th, 2023 for information, and that council directs staff to extend the contract for curbside collection with Waste Connections of Canada for one additional year commencing January 1st, 2024. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you. Item 13, the CAA Treasurer's Report. Item A is the 2024 capital budget. We've all seen it. Tracy, do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I can. The attached spreadsheet is kind of where we landed after we went through it all last meeting. But I am suggesting that we do move the Silver Lake culvert back to debt funding. That's maybe the hopes of finding a grant. Read through the report. If we leave that tax contribution at $755,000, that means a 15.49% tax increase. If we bring it down to the 225,000 tax levy, it's 4.6. That's just my recommendation, but the spreadsheet shown is with the culvert in the tax levy. So if there's any questions or if you guys want to still discuss some of these projects.
Does council have any questions? Go ahead.
Tracy, just a quick question. Have we used all of our gas tax in this capital budget, or are we still carrying some forward to next year?
We haven't used it all. We did discuss last week maybe using it to get another street shovel ready, but we can certainly put that to the culvert to bring it down a bit. For sure.
I certainly agree with financing that whole thing from taxes. It's going to be too much of an increase, so.
I think so.
Guess, I guess I support what you're saying, but if there is some gas tax, maybe I'd like to put a little of that towards the debenture on the culvert rather than financing it all.
Well, and I could certainly watch for some grants to get that done better than even trying to consider debt financing, but we'll start looking for some options right away. But yeah, I think you're right. For now, we move it out of the tax and come up with a game plan.
Anything further? Counselor Dreyfus.
Yeah, and just a further comment, where these are all projects that need to move forward and they're critical. Like there wasn't one project on there that we felt as a committee we could shove off and say we can't do it. We're in a situation where we've got to start raising some cash, and I think that was the objective of Councillor Pemberton and myself and the CAO working to figure out a way that we can sort of put ourselves in a little better cash position over time. And we realize we can't do it all in one shot, but we have to start someplace. And you can put money into reserves, but it's money we don't have. We don't actually have the cash. So the reserves mean nothing at the end of the day. So I think, I'm in favor of the proposal that Tracy's put forth, but it's still a book. It's just all we're doing is shuffling numbers around, and that's the reality of it. So, it's and I don't want to see a 15% tax increase. That's high. I'm hearing numbers out there that are higher, but are not higher. Aylmer today came in at 4.9. I think Southold's weighed under that. I heard a number today at 4, and I've heard numbers that are in our category as well. So we're all feeling the pinch, but we also don't have cash, and that's something we have to start working towards.
I agree. Okay, anything further on that one? Tracy, are you looking to pass the capital budget tonight?
If council so wishes, sure.
Yeah. Call the question, Clerk Tara.
Moved by Drewlard, seconded by Dreyfus, that the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives the report of the CAO Treasurer titled 2024 Capital Budget dated December 13th, 2024 for information, and that Project 23-08 Silver Clay Culvert Replacement cost of $530,500 be moved back to debt funding, and that the 2024 capital budget be approved with the $225,000 tax levy contribution. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you. And the financial report from our CAO treasurer, council has seen it. Do you want to make any comments at this time, Tracy?
Yes, just that, under the building 2022, I missed a period, so it's $29,070, not 290, although Jackie, I think, would have loved to have a $290,000 surplus. But other than that, we're still in good shape until I start doing year end. We still haven't got any West Elgin Arena invoices. Ken, do you have any update on when those might be coming?
Excuse me, I mentioned to them that if they wanted to send us an invoice, we'd give them some money, but they didn't say anything today, so at a meeting, so I would imagine this close to year end, they may wait and just send us one invoice at year end. We did look at the financial report up to the end of November. There was nothing that jumped out as different or much different than what we had saw the previous month. So I still think we're going to be considerably less than we budgeted there, probably around 20,000. So
Perfect.
Maybe they'll forget all about it.
maybe
I trust Magda won't do that.
I don't either, and I wish they would, because I really like to put some pressure on them to buy some debentures with that money they've got sitting there, and I'm a little bit reluctant to do that when we haven't paid them anything this year.
Okay.
And then the balance sheet, you can see that we did bring our line of credit down considerably, but We've also taken our last tax installment, so that means back into the line of credit. Other than that, things are just moving along.
I'm just, if I recall, and I can't find it right off the top of my head, but our drainage assessment this year was over 400,000 already. So I don't know, like that's 8% of our budget, like 6 to 8%. So it's a lot of money, right? So I'm just throwing that out there, is that we've got to consider all that in our capital expenditures, because that's essentially what it is at the end of the day. So I think there's a lot of, sort of reasons why we get to this point at this time of the year. So.
And yeah, exactly. We fund even things when we get grants, right? We're flowing the cash until we get the grant, but we don't have the cash to cover that. And it's the same when we do the drain work and anything like that. We don't have the cash to carry us through, so we're paying exorbitant amounts of interest on a line of credit. We're not getting ahead very fast.
What is our interest on our line of credit, Tracy, rate for the municipality?
It's 7 point something right now.
Starts to hurt.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
Okay. Anything further from Tracy? And you talk about the drains, that's not going to slow down. We've been extremely busy, and with the weather we're getting, I can only see that increasing. So we have to be prepared somehow. Councillor Drulard.
Sorry, I just have a question. We talked about that interest, but can't we claim some of that interest back? A portion of it?
charge interest when we do the drains.
Yeah, we charge it, yeah.
Yeah,
Charge
once
it
we do the
back.
final assessment, we get to put interest on it, yeah.
Yeah,
But it just because drains kind of overrun years, it just kind of gets, it's like 1 year you're spending a lot and then you might get it in, so you're always playing catch up, but we do put interest on.
right,
assessment.
yeah, that was my understanding. I didn't ask the question the correct way. Thanks for that clarification.
No, and Brent actually argued with me the last time I put interest on, because I put it up at that, because that's what you charge. And he's like, we didn't estimate that high when they did the estimate. I'm like, sorry, that's what the interest rate is. So, yeah.
Anything further from council? I think we need to move on and let Tracy log off here and look after herself.
Yes.
Clerk Tara, please.
Moved by Dreyfus, seconded by Pemberton, that the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives the report of the CAO Treasurer titled November 2023 Financial Report dated December 13th, 2023 for information. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you. We're still going to march on?
Let's go to closed.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Everybody good with that? Okay. What is that you're drinking, Tracy?
I can't tell you because I'm on work hours. Just kidding. It's just Diet Coke.
Fair enough. We understand. Okay, we'll go to item 14 is other staff reports. The Water Department Monthly Activity Report. Does council have any questions or comments on that one? I see none. Clerk Tara, please.
Moved by Pemberton, seconded by Drulard, that the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich receive the report of the Water Operations Manager titled Monthly Activity Report, December 2023, dated December 13th, 2023 for information, and that Council pass bylaw 2023-76 to provide for regulation of public and private fire service water mains and hydrants. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you. Item B is the Elgin County and Lower Municipal Partners Joint Diversity Equity Inclusion Plan for 2024 to 2026. Everyone saw that in their package. Is there any comments or questions? This is one of them things that I think we're going to increasingly lean on the county. And in part of the county budget is for an additional person in their HR department. So I see us utilizing pay for service model, which makes sense. Any other questions, or Clerk Tara, bring the question, please.
Moved by Drulard, seconded by Dreyfus, that the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives the report of the Executive Assistant titled Elgin County and LMP's Joint Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Plan 2024 to 2026, dated December 13th, 2023, for information, and that the plan be approved. All in favor? And that's carried.
I think one of our ratepayers must have heard us talking about the budget. Item C is our QMS operational plan. Council want to comment on that one? Just bookkeeping, I think. Clerk Tara, please.
Moved by Dreyfus, seconded by Loveland, that the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives the report of the Executive Assistant titled Revision 15, Quality Management System Operational Plan, dated December 13th, 2023, for information, and that the Mayor and the Water Operations Manager, QMS representatives, sign the record of revision and endorsement. All in favor? And that's carried.
Item D is the Municipal Health and Safety Policies Annual Review. Looks like Kate's done work on 3 of our policies. Any comments from council? Clerk Tara, resolution, please.
Moved by Loveland, seconded by Drulard, that the Council of the Municipality of Dutton Dunwich receives the report of the Executive Assistant titled Municipal Health and Safety Policies Annual Review, dated December 13th, 2023, for information. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you. Is there any unfinished business from anyone? See none. Any new business? Nothing new? Any announcements? Councilor Dreyfus.
I'll just step in, and I want to publicly thank the Optimist Club for Santa Claus Parade, and I think it was a fantastic event again. So, and a lot of community participation. So, kudos to the group for doing such a great job.
Thanks, and I'll pass that along to the club.
I agree. It was a great evening. It just, I was on Main Street, and them big trucks, them horns are pretty loud. If we could muffle them a little bit, but anyway, well done. Okay, let's, we can flip through these bylaws fairly quickly, I think. 18A is the Donald Lumley Drain Bylaw, 3rd reading. Clerk Tara, please.
Moved by Drulard, seconded by Dreyfus, that bylaw 2023-66, being a bylaw to borrow on the credit of the corporation in the amount of $207,000 for the improvement of the Donald Lumley Drain, be read a 3rd time and passed. All in favor? And that's carried.
The actual costs of the Dunwich Dutton School Drain. Resolution, please.
Moved by Dreyfus, seconded by Loveland, that bylaw 2023-70, being a bylaw to amend the assessment schedule for the actual costs incurred for the construction of the Dunwich Dutton School Drain, be read a 1st, 2nd, and 3rd time and passed. All in favor? And that's carried.
And the actual costs for the Dude Ranch Hill Drain.
Moved by Loveland, seconded by Pemberton, that bylaw 2023-71, being a bylaw to amend the assessment schedule for the actual costs incurred for the construction of the Dude Ranch Hill Drain be read a first, second, and third time and passed. All in favor? And that's carried.
You're on a roll, Tara. The actual cost of the Gordon Campbell drain.
Moved by Pemberton, seconded by Drulard, that bylaw 2023-72 being a bylaw to amend the assessment schedule for the actual costs incurred for the construction of the Gordon Campbell drain be read a first, second, and third time and passed. All in favor? And that's carried.
And item E, the actual cost of the East Branch of the Lodge and Graham drain.
Moved by Drulard, seconded by Dreyfus, that bylaw 2023-73 being a bylaw to amend the assessment schedule for the actual costs incurred for the construction of the East Branch Lodge and Graham drain be read a first, second, and third time and passed. All in favor? And that's carried.
Thank you. Item F is the actual cost for the Pierce drain.
Moved by Dreyfus, seconded by Loveland, that bylaw 2023-74 being a bylaw to amend the assessment schedule for the actual costs incurred for the construction of the Pierce drain be read a first, second, and third time and passed. All in favor? And that's carried.
And item G is the county road maintenance agreement, and I have a question for Tara. Why was this document not included in the agenda package? Was it?
I believe it.
Doesn't matter. I don't think anybody wants to read this thing. This is the document. So a lot of work's gone into it.
Yeah.
Any questions on that?
Yeah, it's there.
Is it? Okay.
It was there.
Okay. Good.
Did
I'm glad.
everybody read it?
I kind of skimmed for the highlights.
Okay.
You guys have seen this document prior. It just somewhere in the shuffle, it was forgotten. The county hadn't had it signed and we hadn't had it signed, so we needed to get it signed by both parties.
Okay. Any questions on that one?
Moved by Loveland, seconded by Pemberton, that bylaw 2023-75 being a bylaw to authorize a road maintenance agreement between the corporation of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich and the county of Elgin be read a first, second, and third time and passed. All in favor? And that's carried.
Item H is bylaw to regulate the use of public and privately owned fire hydrants. And I think it's pretty self-explanatory why we're dealing with this now. Any questions from council? Clerk Tara, please.
Moved by Pemberton, seconded by Drulard, that bylaw 2023-76 being a bylaw to regulate the use of public and privately owned fire hydrants be read a first, second, and third time and passed. All in favor? And that's carried.
Item I is user fees, amending bylaw for the building fees.
Moved by Drulard, seconded by Dreyfus, that bylaw 2023-77, a bylaw to amend bylaw 2023-39 to establish various fees and tariffs for services provided by the municipality of Dutton Dunwich be read a first, second, and third time and passed. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, and item J is a bylaw to appoint an acting fire chief, Jeff MacArthur. Any comments, questions from council on that one?
Okay, moved by Drulard, or moved by Dreyfus, seconded by Loveland, that bylaw 2023-78 being a bylaw to appoint an acting fire chief be read a first, second, and third time and passed. All in favor? And that's carried.
I'll just add to that, that Southold just, I think it's Monday night, their council meeting, just dealt with this issue as well. So they're all on board, and Lisa and Tara have done a lot of work and put together a pay for use. So Southold will just invoice Dutton Dunwich for the time that Jeff spends here. A lot of work went into that, and thank you, Tara, for pulling that together. Tracy laid the groundwork for it. And I will share with council that they had their eyes on another person who kind of I don't know, I'm gonna be polite on it, but he withdrew at the 11th hour. And I know, staff were confident that he was going to help us out in this situation. So it was a bit of a scramble on the last day, but staff pulled it together, and I want to thank them for all their work on that issue. Okay, let's get into closed, and we're going to take a break.
Moved by Loveland, seconded by Pemberton, that the council for the municipality of Dutton Dunwich now moves into a session of the meeting that shall be closed to the public at 6:49 PM in accordance with section 2392 of the Municipal Act, SO 2001, Chapter 25, for discussion of the following matters. A, personal matter about an identifiable individual, including municipal employees, section 2392B of the Municipal Act, Fire Department. B, labor relations or employee negotiations, section 2392D of the Municipal Act, Water Department. C, labor relations or employee negotiations, section 2392D of the Municipal Act, Medical Center. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay, let's take a break. I think we may get into a lengthy discussion on the next 3 items here, so. Good to go.
Confirm.
I'm just putting the recording back on. All right. Moved by Drulard, seconded by Dreyfus, that bylaw 2023-79 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the municipal council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich be read a first, second, and third time and passed. All in favor? And that's carried.
Okay. This is the last time we meet before the end of the year. We're going to have a wonderful Christmas and holiday and a break from all this. And January 10th and January 24th, our next meetings. But you do have homework. Take a look at that medical agreement and
You sending it to me? Or did you?
Yeah. Moved by Dreyfus, seconded by Loveland, that the meeting of the council of the municipality of Dutton Dunwich closes at 8:28 PM. All in favor? And that's carried.
okay.
Bye, guys.
See you, Tracy. Look after yourself.